Hello and welcome to The Final Bell, the official Geelong Cats podcast. It is great to have you with us for another week. We are brought to you each week by our friends at Morris, personal finance solutions, expert advice and finance specialists, all in one place. We are going to talk all things Cats versus Brisbane. I'm going to probably try and keep it as short as I possibly can, given the result of that game. But we are going to look ahead to this massive game this week coming up against Fremantle. We're also going to talk about our record-breaking coach, Chris Scott, and his wonderful milestone that he's going to achieve this week. To talk about all these things, though, I am joined, as I am every single week, by AFLW skipper of the Cats, Meg McDonald. Meg, great to see you.
Hey, Lingy, good to see you. I'm a bit shook, though. I thought I was coming on to talk about the Matildas and Ariane Titmus, and that'll do us this week.
Well, I'm more than happy to go there straight away. Right. You went up last Thursday night up to Sydney. Did, yeah. And you saw the Matildas kick off their World Cup campaign against Ireland. What was it like?
Oh, God, it was so good. Last minute decision, got on the plane. I was a bit sick, so not great, but that's okay. I went straight to got off the plane, onto the train, straight to the precinct. Everyone's going, this is like Sydney 2000. I wouldn't know, but I mean, I was old enough to have gone, but didn't go. And it was just and then I was worried about how big my bag was, so then I went in early and I was just in there as everyone was filing in and news broke about Sam.
Can I ask about that quickly? Was there a flatness in the crowd at that stage?
I don't think the crowd was full. There was definitely an exhale. I don't know. There was a sad sigh. Originally, it wasn't clear that it was going to be for 2 games, so I'm thinking, that's okay. Nina Morrison was coming up and she was running late. I was like, that's okay, mate. They've just heard that you're running late. Then we'll get the great roar when she comes on. But that's okay. I had faith in the whole team. We got to halftime and I was like, oh, hang on. What if I've spent the money on this trip and I'm not even going to see a goal? But then Steph Catley, we love a defender. We love a captain stepping up.
Well, the moment you knew that it had hit the back of the net, what was it like?
Gosh, we were up and about. I was on the far corner. Oh my God, it was insane. It was so good, and then just living in the imagery, straight home to watch the replay. But the last 10 minutes was incredibly stressful. I was like, any danger that we could play some front half.
It just lived in their half
for the weekend.
Pitch, didn't it?
It did.
So we play Thursday night against Nigeria.
Yeah.
If we win that, given the draw between Canada and Nigeria, we're through, I think.
I reckon, 2 wins.
To the knockout stage.
But then the Melbourne one becomes okay, you want to wish for a win, but then there's a game in Melbourne the following Monday, which if it's a dead rubber, you might not be seeing Sammy. No, you're probably not seeing Sammy anyway.
I don't think you're seeing Sammy anyway. Just keep a cherry ripe for the knockout stage.
But
that'd be an incredible experience. Well done, you going up. That's great.
I might have sent a text message, not to come back to the footy, but I might send a text message to a teammate on Sunday night that said, I can't trust men. I'm going back to women's sport. I've gone the Tillies on Thursday night. Ariane Titmus was just dominant in the pool. And after the old Cats, I thought the Roos might get up for us. That was disappointing. The Ashes. I was like,
the weather looked after us in that one.
It did. But I was all women's sport all weekend, which was great. But that's not what we're here to talk about. I appreciate you giving me the floor for to waffle on there.
No, I did. The text did go round between you and I and Troy, who organises us each week, saying, what time we're going to do this. And I said, I'm available 10 a.m. on Tuesday, whatever it was, as long as we don't have to talk about this game we're currently watching. But I shouldn't say that because that's being too negative. But it was one of the strangest first halves in particular that I have seen from our Cats for a long, long time. It seemed as though all of a sudden all our skills were gone and we didn't use the ball well. Yeah, a bit of Space Jam about it. Mind you, Brisbane didn't break away from us massively at any stage, and we always felt like, if we kick a couple, we get going a little bit, we're kind of still in this game.
Yeah, for sure. You're right, it was bizarre, and you're looking going, they aren't doing much better. It's sort of, as the commentary was saying, it was the tale of the two sort of defences, which is probably not what was, what we were thinking going in. But you're right about that disposal. I feel like I was watching thinking, you know, in the last couple of seasons or last year in particular, when you've banked wins, you're playing with a freedom and even in a big game like that, you're probably thinking I'm backing myself in on this kick because the stakes aren't as high. I watched the first half and I thought, I feel like there's a sense of how important this game could be and when nervy in a way that I don't feel like I'd seen before.
And we definitely had a desire to use the corridor and use the ball dangerously. But as you said, Brisbane set up quite well. They were onto it early. And then our kicks, instead of being punched in there and just bang, when you're feeling good, you know what it's like. You just go bang. You don't even think about the kick. Hit somebody, lace out on the chest, and away they go. It was almost little half kicks that had.
Like, I should kick it here, but I'm a bit scared to.
And you loop it a touch because you're not sure if I punch it hard, it's going to miss someone's going to go flying past him. Yeah. Had a little bit of loop. Brisbane shut it down. Little turnover, goes back. Our defenders held up, I thought, remarkably well considering the amount of ball that was coming down and just flying at them. Tom Stewart was excellent down there. I thought Jack Henry and Zach Guthrie again held up pretty strong under fire early on.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think perhaps something I didn't realise before I played football and played in defence was how out of position you can be when you're in offence and you are setting up to be part of the attack and you're trusting the disposal of your teammates, that if the kick execution is then really bad or you make a poor entry, you are so far out of position to then be able to defend. So I agree. I thought they held up, particularly well, all things considered.
When looking at that, what do you say is the real Geelong? What we saw the previous Saturday night against the Bombers or what we saw on Saturday evening against the Lions? They are poles apart.
They are poles apart. So I was confused and I'm still a bit unsure, which probably speaks to our inconsistency about that very question. And when it comes back to the midfield and that contested ball, look, halfway through the game I was blaming Essendon. I was like, Essendon, any danger you could have, given us a good run into this
Sharpened us up
a bit. Which I think obviously, that's the real Geelong. That's what won us a premiership and I feel like it kind of has to be. We have to get the ball forward with the strengths of our team. When I don't think we are a sort of, obviously we're not a run and gun off half back, cut sides up. We're best when we play footy in our front half, and that wasn't the case on the weekend. But I was looking at it and thinking, are we off? Are they or are Neil and Dunkley a level above? Like, do you know what I mean? Was it a head to head and they're winning, or was it a wear off our game?
It's a good question to ask because I watched because I worked at the game where Melbourne played Brisbane at the MCG the previous Friday night. Brisbane gave up that lead. They lost the game. And in the breakdown of the game after it, not that I didn't know this already, but I just realised how important Josh Dunkley is for that Brisbane Lions team. Him missing, I think Brisbane get over the line against Melbourne. They don't give up that lead. They keep winning contested ball. He's just unbelievable in a contest. Lockie Neal already is, but when he's doing it by himself, you can kind of work him over. You can work the others over, and you can just blunt their influence a bit through the middle. Throw Dunkley in. There were a couple of times we had Josh Dunkley caught cold, done on the ground even, and his strength to still release a handball and release a runner meant it went from we're either going to get a stoppage or probably a turnover here to Brisbane are flying and they're away.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like there were some times where you thought, all right, we've got in the screen, we had Neil with the ball pinned, and he's got something out, or it's been knocked on, or we've knocked it on occasion. It's spilling out. That's okay because Neil's there, he's covered, and then it goes to Dunkley and you think, oh dear. And they just exploded. We were a bit fumbly, and then when they got their hands on it, they exploded. But you're right, not to make the Cats podcast about how well Josh Dunkley's going, but there was that massive handball from Hawke to Mitch Duncan, I think it was, and where you're thinking, all right, we're about to hit an inside 50, we're getting a bit of a run on, and Dunkley's effort to tackle Mitch was the difference. So
just huge. Unbelievably, the way we're talking, it still ended up an 11-point game, and we were we were charging a bit in that last quarter, and little times where you think, oh, maybe we just execute one little thing a bit better. We might have been within a goal, and it's really game on. What were your thoughts on the move of Tom Stewart into the midfield?
Oh, yeah, well...
it certainly seemed to help. It sparked us a little bit.
It absolutely seemed to help. And I did, when the commentators were going on about, I've never seen this before, I was like, yeah, I sat behind the goals for that North game, and I was sending my coach videos that started from the back line and zoomed in on Tom Stewart as he was at a centre bounce, being like, take note.
See, defenders can go into centre bounce. Just on that, it was actually the 9th time this season he'd attended a centre bounce when he started in there in the third quarter.
Look, I loved it. I don't know. Do you think it's? I don't think it's desperate. I think it's one of your best players, your most ruthless players, your most good in the contest players getting in there to try and steady the ship. And I think he did that. Well,
I was thinking about this. Yeah, sometimes I think coaches try and pull a variety of levers throughout a game to get a response when things aren't going well. And the Geelong coaches would have known early on, okay, we're just a touch off here.
Yep.
So certain players, you give them a little rev up. Yep. Hey, sharpen up, get your mind, get to work. Because that's what they'll respond well to that. Other ones, maybe it's a positive, it's a bit of support, bit of encouragement. Hey, come on, you can do this, you can do that. You'll try a few things structurally, you'll try a few things positionally. But then sometimes it can be as simple as we're getting beaten through the middle of the ground badly. Yep. Clearance numbers were out of control. So no one's really in form in the moment in the game in the middle of the ground. So who's the one player who's actually playing really well?
Yep.
Tom Stewart. So maybe it's as simple as we don't have many playing well.
Yep.
So let's move one of those where the ball is more often and just move a player who's in form in the game to where the ball is and just
simple game footy.
Hope something can get rolling from that, and maybe his form not becomes contagious, but almost like that. He wins a couple of balls in the middle of the ground.
He lays that tackle on Neil. I think that was a repeat stoppage. He knocks on and then I think gets an inside 50. So, yeah, I don't know. I wasn't paying – I think post-clearance he was still dropping behind the ball. Is that right?
Yeah, I couldn't fully tell watching from home. I would have loved to have been at the ground to notice more, but it felt like that.
Yeah. I haven't looked at every single centre bounce to see what happened when he was in there, but something changed because, as you say, we were somehow miraculously back in it, and miraculously they were 9-0 going in at the Gabba, and despite what it felt like watching, I think that's the closest another team has gone. Not that you sort of, lay down at night and tell yourself that and make your sleep easy, but...
No, it was probably one that, you don't necessarily mark down as a win straight up, but you hope to play well and pinch a win there. It does leave us in... I think 8th spot at the moment. Am I right in saying that?
8th, are we? I think we're still more. I think we're 8th.
I've got 8th on my AFL.
Oh gosh,
here.
I might have looked before the end of Sunday.
That's okay. We are even on points with the Blues and Richmond, who are sitting in 9th and 10th.
No, that draw in the end.
Yes, we do have a superior percentage to those two teams. It does take us to this week coming. Yeah. Just quickly to the VFL lost, unfortunately, to the Brisbane Lions. I assume they are. The Brisbane. I was about to say the Brisbane Bears, but I'm assuming it's still the Brisbane Lions. Brandon Parfitt had 27 touches, 8 tackles, 8 clearances and a goal. Sounds like he had a terrific game. Mitch Nevitt, excellent as well for the Cats. He had 28 disposals with 6 clearances. And Shannon Neal, really great to see. Took 8 marks and finished off with 3 goals. So a few players trying to put their names up there for possible senior inclusion. We do head to this Saturday afternoon at GMHBA Stadium against the Dockers. I want to talk about the game in just a second and what we might face, but the big part of this game is going to be the celebration of Chris Scott, the Geelong Cats coach, who will break the record previously set by the club great Reg Hickey. Reg coached 304 games of the Cats. Chris Scott will coach game number 305. What a remarkable achievement for Chris Scott. 2-time premiership coach, coached them to a third grand final as well. And one stat for you, Meg.
Oh, yeah?
Which I know I'm telling you because you gave it to me, but I was going to claim it for my own there. But
someone else gave it to me.
As we made eye contact, then I couldn't actually go through with it and claim it for my own. One of only 11 people to have coached 300 plus games.
Yeah, I know. When I think he started to get asked about it, or around the time of his 300th, when he was commenting, this is Scott, he was commenting on his own achievement, and he was quick to say, well, I haven't had to battle injury, et cetera, et cetera. But you are battling an industry that's increasingly ruthless.
Ruthless and just so much pressure.
Yeah, so I think the sustainability of the role in general is a challenge, and you know his longevity is a testament to I guess how he goes about it. You've worked with him, as a player. I've sort of seen him occasionally in the hallways, but from what I've observed and what you listen to the players, he leads with that sort of Geelong way of life stuff. You know, when you hear, you go hard, and you have a life outside of footy as well. Yeah,
and I think he embraced loving the club and the town, the area, very early on. I remember him saying, and I mean, knowing him, he meant it. He absolutely meant it. Now it's probably worked out that way, but he said, I'm not going to be the type of coach who's going to try and do, 4 or 5 years here and then jump to another and do 5 years. He said, I want to coach this club for a long time, and when that time ends, either through his choice or somebody else's, he goes, I can't see myself coaching in another club. He loved the Cats from right at the start. So that was it at the end of his first season. Obviously a very successful first season,
of course,
and great fun.
You would feel like that after a play.
Exactly. For some of those younger listeners who do join us on the podcast every week, just a little bit on Reg Hickey, just so you know just how special that man is, that Chris Scott will be passing. Played 245 VFL, AFL games for the Geelong Footy Club. Premiership player 1931, Premiership captain coach 1937, then Premiership coach 1951 and 1952, Cargie Greaves medal winner in 1928, 1934, team of the century, a coaching record in those 304 games of 183 wins, 118 losses and 3 draws. Just an absolute legend. And for so long, as a little kid coming here, was the Hickey stand down the river end of the ground, which is now over the Mirabel Street wing. The Reg Hickey stand, just iconic for me as a kid, where the cheer squad used to sit down behind the goals there. So a true legend of the Geelong Football Club is being passed. I know we don't label people legends and greats. You need that
because they have a real a
little bit of separation and time for finishing. Chris Scott's here, but it is a remarkable achievement, and one that I think whenever that time comes in years and years and years, he will look back on, and I think all of us as Geelong supporters will look back on and think how lucky we were to go from a great premiership winning coach in Mark Thompson to a great premiership winning coach in Chris Scott, and to have that longevity. It's fantastic.
I don't have much to add other than the fact that, along with the longevity, and a necessity obviously of the longevity, is success, and I guess what he's done for the club and the region in keeping the team as successful as it is can't be understated in an environment such as Geelong. I think he's already the winningest coach in the club's history.
Yes,
and,
I think in AFL history,
Yeah, so I mean, we need look no further than some of the challenges this year to retrospectively realise what an achievement that has been, and hopefully he makes finals again this year. But it's pretty clear that he's good at his job.
Yes, he certainly is very good at his. He's only missed finals with his team once in his tenure as coach. This year is the one that's still up for grabs, and that moves us on to this week. It makes every single game very, very important. I think we're all playing ladder predictors at the moment. We're all having that fun because it's such a wonderful, tight season across the competition again. I've got the Cats making it. I've got them landing in 6th spot. That's even with giving up one more game. I won't say which one for now. It doesn't include giving up this one. It doesn't. I think they go and knock off the Dockers here. But Fremantle have a pretty good record here recently, and actually a decent record over the Cats earlier on the season, and obviously this game last year at GMHBA Stadium, the Dockers both got wins on those occasions.
Yeah, they did, and I think the narrative around Freo's season has probably changed since then. But they're certainly a threat. I remember watching. It was earlier in the season last year, of course, before we went on that run that they got us here. But I thought their spread and their use of the width of the ground, narrow as it is, was impressive last year. So, we've got to be ready for it. But I guess my question to you is, I fully expect us to bounce back this week. Play well, flex again at home. Assuming that happens, how are you then feeling? Because it's that inconsistency. I expect that to happen, but I feel like I'm right in the wave of ups and downs and feeling like we're back and no, we're not, but yes, we are.
That's a good question, because a response this week will still have the doubts after a win, which is fair, I think. But what we have is a really great challenge to play good teams at GMHBA Stadium.
Yes,
The wider footy world just says, it's the greatest home ground advantage.
Yes.
The Cats always win here. Well, over a period of time, I think the Cats do always win here, a lot of times because we end up playing lesser teams here and some interstate teams who were struggling at the time of playing them, and you do get a real home ground advantage, but you're also just a better team than them.
Yes.
I think what we have over the next 2 weeks is us playing two very good teams.
Yep.
Fremantle's ladder position and performance this year suggests they're not that good, but I rate them quite highly. I think they've just struggled to deal with the expectations of being a young side on the rise. People expected them to be maybe top 4, and they've struggled with the weight of that. I think they'll be a better team next year for having experience this year. Players like Caleb Sarong and Andy Brayshaw and that, they're stars of the competition. So they're a pretty good team. And then we face a very, very good team the following week. So, use the home ground advantage and the feeling of being here and the home crowd and everything. But also, I think it's time now.
Yeah, so you're saying it's not a given. If we do on the weekend, it is a reflection of good football.
Good football, good football. Back it up, good football again, and the ability to build good football from this point in time. It's the competition's too good. Collingwood and Port Adelaide and these types of teams are just too good to think I'm going to flick the switch come September. It's got to be a build, and eventually that form will just grow and grow and grow. So Fremantle, then Port Adelaide, and then obviously Collingwood, then St Kilda, and then the Bulldogs. So a really good run against teams who are good teams. You've got the advantage of 3 of those games being at home.
All of them being in the state of Victoria.
Yes. So I think now is the time for us to say, okay, that wasn't pretty on Saturday against the Brisbane Lions.
Enough of that.
Let's fix this up. And let's build towards being in great form in the first week of finals in September. And I think they can deliver that on Saturday. And then, of course, the following Saturday night just leads into an absolute blockbuster. But your point is right. I'm not necessarily going to feel just satisfied and, we're back and amazing when we beat Fremantle on the weekend, if we beat Fremantle on the weekend. Because you want to see it a couple, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks in a row.
Hopefully they continue that fourth quarter form. I mean, what do we get? 10 straight inside 50s. Jerry was back at the first 3 quarters of the game. I thought, let's go.
Yeah, I don't blame that forward line for not exactly firing the way that was coming down.
Hawk had to fire it sometime, so he just come down and fired it at the back line. Hey?
Yeah, just had to get it. There's a couple of questions from our listeners around maybe some selection things. I want to hold those to the next segment. So just a couple of those.
Too much of a busy segment right now.
Well, life's busy for you, Meg.
It's busy.
There we go.
Are we ready? Oh, sorry, we're ready. I thought I went a bit early there.
Nah, go for it.
Life is busy enough without more life admin. That's why Morris is now bringing their personal approach to personal finance. Their team is here to help you finance your next lifestyle asset with their free person-to-person service designed to find a finance deal that works best for you. Call Morris today on 1300 4MORRIS or head to morrisfinance.com.au.
If last week's segue was, say, a 9 out of 10, I reckon this week's, between both of us.
Because I second-guessed myself. That's not how.
We'll give it.
That's not elite sport.
No, we'll give it a 2 out of 10 this one. But our best footy's ahead of us. Our best segues are ahead of us. We're going to build some form come finals. All right,
Yes,
you and I.
Done. Shake on it. Done.
Let's take a break. We'll be back with your questions next.
Hi, Patrick Dangerfield here. Now's the time to get your AFLW membership and join the Geelong Cats. Hi, Patrick Dangerfield here. Now's the time to get your AFLW membership and join the Cats as our women's team chase greatness in the 2023 NAB AFLW season. For existing men's members, save $20 on an AFLW membership and get access to all AFLW Cats games this season. Add the promo code SPECIAL at the checkout and pay just $50. Offer valid until Friday the 28th of July. Head to geelongcats.com.au to join. Adults $10, kids free.
Welcome back. It is great to have you with us on to the final bell. We are supported by Morris. Big thank you to them for all of their support and giving us the opportunity to be able to bring you this podcast every single week. We love you listening. We love your questions as well. And Meg, it's time for some of those listener questions. I do just want to note too, we're recording this Tuesday morning. We started around about 10 a.m. The press conference and the injury update and everything like that won't be until later on this afternoon.
Health update. Let's positively frame it.
Health update. Thank you very much. So a little bit of more information around that type of stuff. I'm sure our listeners will have perhaps already heard by the time this one comes out. I'll be interested to see Tanner Bruin subbed out of the game. Just he got banged around, had the sore shoulder getting a bit of treatment, then he had the nose that had to be all strapped up.
I was watching him getting strapped up and I'm thinking, that's got to impact your aerobic ability. Like not being able to breathe is a technique used in training and it's not fun.
It's funny that. You do need some oxygen in the body. But hopefully he's okay. But for all that information, jump on the Cats website or however you get your footy information. It will be all on there. Question time. Meg, this one's from Taylor. I think we get a few questions from Taylor, don't we?
On your Tay.
Yeah, really appreciate your support, Taylor. Last week, I asked whether Sam Menangola could be our secret September weapon. On reflection, could that person be Cam Guthrie? Well, I think we ummed and ahed and not sure whether Sam ultimately broke into the finals team. I still think he could get a couple of games before that as an opportunity, but maybe not finals. A fit Cameron Guthrie
100%.
plays.
Oh, yeah. And hopefully we'll, as you mentioned before, hear more about how he's tracking this afternoon. I think he's getting some Ks in his legs, hopefully. But of course, I mean, the man's won a Kaji Greaves in a premiership year. And God, I would have liked him and Rowan on the weekend. But I don't know if it was you or someone else in the footy department that was talking to me about that work rate when you just need someone to get a kick release to create, some ball retention. Yep. Cam's the one. Besides all his, class as a midfielder, he helps you out of a sticky situation. We need a bit of that. So,
Taylor, I think the short answer is yes, absolutely. A Cam Guthrie inclusion into that midfield in finals, a fit and firing Cam Guthrie would be a massive weapon for the Cats and our shot at back-to-back premierships. So, definitely really appreciate your question. This one's from Cameron, not from me, I promise, Meg. Premierships aside, do we give Chris Scott enough credit for what he's achieved as our coach over the last 305 games? He coaches game number 305 this week against Fremantle. 2015 aside, we've always been a chance. That's extraordinarily rare. Do we, I think internally across Geelong, give him enough credit? I would say yes, absolutely.
We tried to before earlier in the pod.
Yeah, but I think at times Geelong supporters have been way too hard on him at different times. I think across the league, when we are quick to want to sack a coach and jump down a coach's throat and say, he's not doing this, he's not doing that, we overlook the fact that Chris Scott consistently every week prepares a team who is in the contest and is vying to win a match and vying to be in finals contention and top four contention and possibly premiership contention in a competition that is very, very hard to do that. So I think at times, and I'll talk about from maybe the AFL media perspective here, which I'm involved in, we want to jump on the coach who's not doing a good job of it or not getting results and fail to give accolades to and recognise those coaches who are doing a very, very good job year after year after year.
Absolutely, and I think as the week rolls on and we get into the celebration, we'll probably hear a bit more from people that have been coached by him and have worked closely with him. So I look forward to hearing those sort of tributes and getting a bit more of a sense of what makes him as successful as he has been.
And Scotty will hate all of this. He will hate having all the spotlight on him. And I think he'll have to be convinced you're going to have the spotlight on you this week because it is a remarkable achievement. As we said in the previous segment, it is incredible in such a ruthless position within a football club. We see coaches sacked left, right and centre. We see coaches under the pump. We see just sheer exhaustion get coaches in the end. Damien Hardwick left the Tigers mid-year. He's 3-time premiership coach and he just had enough. So it really is. So bad luck, Scotty. You're going to get the spotlight on you this week.
I'm sure he doesn't like it because he probably is espousing the fact that it takes a lot of people to be successful. But that recognition's what makes you successful in the first place. So
correct. This one's from Mike, and also it's a double question because Hammy gets involved. I thought I was going to do my hammy the other day when I was having a kick of the footy with the kids. That's a worrying sign. But this one's from Hammy and also from Mike. It says, do we have to win every game from here on to cement a top 8 spot? Do you think the games against the Giants and the Bulldogs, maybe not the Giants, must win? Saints
maybe Port.
Or Port, perhaps. Anyway, Hammy, we'll just take that one as each game. As I said before, Meg, I've got us
You've banked
losing.
a loss.
I've banked a loss in there in my ladder predictor. I caved and I gave us a loss.
Can I just ask you if it's against the best team in the comp?
I was going to say I can neither confirm nor deny, but I think that's a good guess by you.
Okay, all right.
I just rate them unbelievably highly. Do I think we can beat Collingwood? Absolutely. Yeah. But just for the sake of doing my ladder predictor erring on the side of a little bit of caution, I had us dropping, in my ladder predictor, I actually had us dropping the game against Brisbane and dropping the game against Collingwood, more to protect myself from disappointment. And I still had us making the top 8.
I agree. And I think the more footy you watch, you sort of think, as with ladder predictors, the favourite's always going to win, and in recent weeks they've been upsets, and they'll continue to be for the next month or so. So, hopefully we can get an upset and win 4 or 5 or however many we've got left. But I agree. I don't think we need to win every single one.
No, the challenge is if you drop one, I think in our run home there's no such thing as we're not playing West Coast Eagles.
No.
Or North Melbourne. And West Coast Eagles are effectively a bye right now. They're not at AFL standard and they're just not a good team. It's just a fact.
And some of the teams around us are playing those.
Yeah, you have games that it's going to be real 50-50 contests and you've got to step up and you've got to win them. And if you do win them, you get in great form. Come finals and away we go. Thanks for the question, Mike, and also Hammy. Really appreciate it. Did you have any pre-game routine? Or do you have any pre-game routine? And Charlie perhaps asking me, did I have any pre-game routine?
Sounds like you needed a pre-kick routine for that hammy.
Yeah, warm up. Don't try and kick it anything over about 15 metres if you're not warmed up.
Yeah.
What's your pre-game routine?
I don't have I have a sort of rhythm to my day. I kind of wake up, first coffee, eat, walk, go for a walk, get the second coffee, that sort of thing. And then I like getting here very early, 2.5 hours early.
2.5?
2 to 2.5.
What do you do? Just hang around? Or?
Well, I don't like getting caught in the sort of, what do you call it? But the glut of people trying to get into the physio. I'm like, get in, get the strapping, get the prep. I get my boots on super early. I do like a full underwear change, everyone. Like I get in, I wear completely different clothes. Sounding like I've said no, I don't have a routine, but I've got a lot of things that I do.
Sounds like you kind of do have a routine. Do you also know that as captain you can kind of just grab your physio spot and that's your spot?
I was having this discussion with Nigel Lappin recently because what was I doing? I was maybe at the review screens downstairs, and Zali Friswell, a young 20-year-old teammate of mine, not even 19, was in a seat and I was standing or something to that effect, and he thought, you need to pull some rank. And I made it clear to Nige that I was on, this is going a bit far, but on our footy trip last year, guess who ended up on the trundle bed in the living room of the accommodation? That's what it means to be team first.
We need to talk. Ultimate team first person, I believe you are.
But you got to look after your own ferments first.
Exactly right. There are certain non-negotiables where you should be able to get on the physio table and you should have a good night's sleep.
Even on footy trip.
Then you can be caring and selfless all you like around everything else.
It is a very key part of being empathetic and having energy for others is looking after yourself. So I'll take that into account this season. Can
I ask about your pre-game routine? Are you really fired up, like ready to run through brick walls, or are you calm and cool and then explode at the first bounce?
The latter.
Okay.
The only other thing I must do is I like to kick a lot. I find I really want to get that rhythm going before the game. But I actually had this conversation with one of the psychs at the club recently, because there is obviously it's sort of the stereotypical environment where the music's pumping, and I find that I'm quite up already and quite anxious isn't the word, but I'm anticipating and I'm whatever's firing. So I'm trying to probably come down a little bit and just conserve and waiting for that first bounce, whereas others who you're trying to lead want the opposite. So I find that stuff fascinating, but I'm certainly the latter.
And that's the challenge of being a leader, isn't it? That you have to give those others what they want while also keeping yourself in the control at the level that you want to be at to be able to perform yourself. It's an interesting insight. I was very much more on the side of, if I'd been able to get to the ground 15 minutes before the first siren, I'd be happy. We had to get there 2 hours before. So I would jump in with mainly the doctors, but if we could grab a physio aside before the rush that you're talking about and just sit around and chat. We'd talk surfing, we'd talk, they liked golf, we'd laugh, we'd have some fun, and then I'd wander into the trainer's room and get my ankles strapped, and it would always be banter. I didn't want to talk footy, it'd just be Leroy, the great Leroy McConaughey was my strapper mainly. Also David King would do it if Leroy wasn't there. And Leroy was always just hanging it on each other. He would tease me about something, I'd tease him about something. The banter was fun because it was keeping my mind off footy. I didn't want to think about it.
I'm with you on that one. I like getting here early, but it's so that I can just chill in the environment, I think. It's not to sort of be on from 2 hours out. It's just being chill.
I'd often walk out of the at one of the rooms and see a Matty Scarlett fully stripped, or Tom Harley fully stripped in his Cats plain jumper, shorts, socks, doing run-throughs and trying to bump the brick wall and all that. I'm going, oh, that's exhausting.
I'd cramp in the first quarter.
And then I'd watch while those two were running through doing these full-on things, and Harry Taylor would be the same earlier on in his career. I'd then spot Gaz Jr. and Stokesy and Stevie in that, trying to work around them playing footy golf. Yeah. They'd be picking see that doorway through there, round the passage into the boot room. It's a par 3, so you've got to get it in, and they'd do all that. So that was always going on amongst each other. I've always found that funny. You got 3 guys or 4 guys who were so relaxed, so just having some fun, and 2 or 3 guys who were honestly ready to run through the grandstand wall 2 hours before the game. And it showed the beauty of the way individuals could prepare but all come together at the right time as a team. Okay, now we're all ready to go.
Yeah, I love that. And we'll do a whole other podcast on this, but did you ever have some that you had to steer one way or the other, or it sounds like you just had trust that everyone knew what they were about?
Certainly, as we became a better team, you trusted each person to be ready. I would always get around and remind them about where their focus needed to be, or particular players. I'll use Stevie as an example. Stevie could be pretty creative and want to put on a show out there. I just remind him about, okay, when it's time to do the basic things really well, do those basic things. When you've looked and nothing's on, snag one from the boundary, cool. But our expectations of you are to do this, and this, and then you shine beyond that. He'd always give me the little nod. I know, I gotcha. He knew I almost needed to say it for my own I've just checked off with him.
Yes.
But he also needed that little reminder. I'd always probably spend more time with the guys who are in maybe game number 30, 40, 50. Super young guys, you'd give them the confidence and a little pump up, but then leave them alone a little bit. They didn't need to hear 100 different bits of info. But guys in game number 40 or 50, they understood the game. They were there to start influencing games, not just to get a game.
Yeah.
So I would talk them through, okay, hey, in this scenario, it's all right. It's fine. If you get caught deep inside the opposition's forward 50 with this player, don't panic. Yep. Just look up, see a Boris or a Scarlo. We'll make a move. If you see an experienced mid, grab one of us and we'll cover your man for a little bit and then we'll get it fixed up. Just don't panic in that situation. And so you talk them through those scenarios.
Yeah, that information stuff's really interesting because you think if 30 different people give one person one piece of information, that's 30 different pieces of information.
It's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot.
So no, I was very the other one I just thought of, Darren Milburn. He would be in just his normal trackies or whatever we wore to the game up to the last second that the fitness staff are saying, we're going out to warm up. You have to get changed. And in his own laconic way, he'd just go, yeah, and just chuck his shorts and his socks and his boots on and just sort of tail in behind the group as we headed out there. And then in the warm-up, he'd just kick around, just a light kick around and that. And then the first bounce would go and he'd just turn into the hardest, most ruthless player.
I love that.
I'd love to be able to switch like that. I at least had to – I went from relaxed to a build.
That is traumatic to me. Like I have nightmares about being late to the game and then the game starting and me not being able to access the field because I've forgotten my mouth. I honestly – I hope no opposition listens to this podcast because I've got a bit going on.
Okay, so we've got some work to do then, Meg. It's all right. Just breathe. I love the insight into all those different preparations. And I always love, it's why I love watching elite sport, NFL quarterbacks, Olympics, all of that is – you then narrow that down to an individual who has to stand. Kathy Freeman standing at the start of the 400-metre track, 2000 Olympics. The entire crowd is there for her to then narrow your focus down so much and block it all out to go, I just have to nail each step, every step of rhythm for 400 metres against the best in the world. That stuff amazes me.
As recently as Sunday night? I mentioned Titmus before.
Yes.
She's got her world record's been taken off by an 18-year-old Canadian earlier in the year. There are only 3 women to ever go sub 4 minute, whatever it is.
And they were all in the race.
They were all in the race. They're like, is she in form? The other two are in form. And she absolutely smoked them.
And when they saying it was the best field ever assembled for that
best field ever assembled,
distance?
She won by body lengths.
Yeah.
What a queen.
I love it.
I just, honestly, I agree.
Love all that sort of
great
stuff.
Great question.
Yes, thank you for that one, Charlie. Thank you to everyone who asked questions. As you said, we could do an entire podcast on that question.
Lucky we don't do them at the start of the podcast.
We better leave it there. Thanks to everyone who sent a question in. Please keep them coming. Just quickly too, as I mention each week, we are supported by Morris and we really appreciate their support. We love doing the podcast, so we love their support as well. And for years, Morris has been supporting businesses and the community to generate success together. Now they are bringing their personal approach to personal finance. Cars, boats, caravans, motorbikes, jet skis, whatever you want. They are all about getting you out there living life. Let their team of finance specialists take on the life admin of arranging your finance so you can get on with life. Call Morris today on 1300 4MORRIS or head to morrisfinance.com.au. That better do us, Meg. We're finishing up. Saturday's game is a huge game, 1:45 at GMHBA Stadium against Fremantle. I love the 1:45 Saturday afternoon time slot. We'll be kicking the footy on St Mary's Oval with my kids for about 3 hours after the game.
Brilliant.
Can't wait.
I'll come and have a look for you.
Just quickly.
Would you give me the hands?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'll back you to slot one.
Thanks, mate.
The defenders always step up and kick straight. Your pre-season, quickly, how's it going?
It's going well. I reckon we've gone from 40 mins of match play last week to maybe 3 20-minute quarters tonight. Not sure.
Nice.
We're going to look at some kick-ins.
Good.
Defending,
so you're starting
attacking.
to sharpen up the actual scenario-based stuff.
That's exactly right. Yeah, so nice. It's good.
Very good. Your fitness, good? No injury, no
Fine.
soreness? Always sore, but
that's all right.
all right,
No,
we better
going well.
finish this up so you can do some more recovery and get that massage. But great to catch up again, Meg.
Thanks, Lingy. Back at ya.
We will be back next week, hopefully talking about a good Cats win against
on.
the Dockers. Enjoy your week.